There are two things that always deserve a good slashing. The tires on the BMW belonging to my mom's new boyfriend, and also chords. So today we're talking about slash chords, which basically, I remember I was confused by this when I first started looking up chord charts, and I would see like a C/G or a D/F sharp. Really simple answer to this, but we can actually kind of take this in a few different ways to start talking about more how valuable it is to learn where the notes are and stuff like that, and what notes go into what chords. So, real easy answer. You have a letter, a slash, and another letter, right? So like a C/G. Basically what that is, it means a C chord. If you don't want to get too far into it and you just want to do this as easy as possible, just forget that there's a slash and there's a letter after that. Just take the first one. A C/G is just a C major chord. But the real answer is the letter to the right, the note to the right of that slash, is what the bass note should be. Okay, so we have really the root note versus the bass note. Okay, on guitar, oftentimes the root note is the bass note. So what that means is, again, this traditional C major chord. I've got 3rd fret of the A string, 2nd fret of the D string, open G string, 1st fret of the B string, open E string. The notes that go into a C major chord are C, E, 2nd fret of the D string is the E, and G. Now, for this particular chord voicing, we have another C and another E, okay? The cool thing about guitar is that you don't, and really just any instrument, you don't have to have just one of each of those individual notes represented. We have 6 strings, most guitars have 6 strings, so we can have 6 potential notes played, even if we're doubling them up, right? So this is a 3-note chord called a triad, all right? Now, the next thing we're gonna talk about is an inversion. An inversion is where the root or the bass note isn't the first note, okay? So kind of like I said in the C major chord, the root note and the lowest note happen to be the same thing, a C, okay? We also said that any combination of C, E, and G will make a C chord. It could be 12 C notes, 1 E note, and 15 G notes, all gonna be a C chord, right? But let's talk about a C/G. So all we need to do is find a lower G note to make the bass note, the lowest note in this chord from this voicing. There's a really easy one to do this that I like to use a lot. The 3rd fret on the E string is G. E, F, F sharp, G, okay? So if you make a C major chord, but instead of using your ring finger for the 3rd fret of the A string, use your pinky, and then put your ring finger on the G note on the E string, you get a C/G chord, okay? So, this is an inversion of a C major chord, all right? Now, another inversion we could do would be having the E in the root. And that's actually pretty easy too to do is with a regular C major chord. You just hit the open E string, okay? So that would be a C/E, all right? So we've got, and just to kind of hear the difference, we have a regular C chord, a C/G, and a C/E. Okay? So, might not be a whole lot of difference, but in certain compositions and arrangements on guitar and other instruments, really where the bass note ends up occurring, can be really huge as far as how that sounds. So again, it can also be kind of confusing because like, okay, play a C chord. What does that mean? Do I want to play this C chord? Do I want to play this C chord? This C chord? There's a lot of options that you can have to play a C chord. So it's up to you and your own creativity and which voicings that you're comfortable with to choose which C chord to use. But it doesn't really give you more information if you're just looking at a chord chart. So when you have slash chords, a lot of times that's like a really solid hint of which voicing that chord chart is calling for, like a C/G chord. Almost 99% of the time, it's usually calling for this chord voicing, where G is in the bass note, okay? So another one you'll see a lot is maybe like a D major chord, right? So, and another reason that this chord is probably slashed more than any other chord in guitar history, guitar lore, is because when you think about maybe like another chord that goes with the D major chord a lot, a G major chord, one of the reasons that this calls for a slash chord more often than not is because if we think about it, if we play this D major chord, where I've got open D, D being my root note, my bass note, and just a regular traditional D major open chord, 2 on the G string, which is an A, 3 on the B string, which is another D, and then 2 on the high E string is an F sharp. So we have all Ds, F sharps, and As, but I'm only playing 4 strings on the guitar, and the 4 highest strings, okay? When I play a G major chord, oftentimes you're gonna play all 6 strings, okay? So we also have the 2 thicker strings that are aiding that G major in volume. So specifically in a solo acoustic guitar arrangement, you actually lose a good amount of volume if you're playing pressure-wise evenly a D major chord, 4 strings, and a G major chord, 6 strings. So what you'll see Slash a lot is taking a D major chord with an F sharp in the bass note, right? So again, you could read this, it's just gonna be D slash F sharp. You could say D over F sharp would be another way to speak that, to read that chord. But oftentimes it'll look like this. So maybe I start with this voicing right here where I've got 3rd fret of the E string, 2nd fret of the A string, open D, open G, 3rd fret of the B string. And then it'll go to a D slash F sharp chord, which looks like this. Again, my ring finger just kind of anchored there, and now my pointer finger is on the F sharp, on the low E string, which again would be the same as the high E string up here. And my middle finger is 2nd fret on the G string. So that kind of creates a little more of an even sound because it is essentially equally bass heavy in arrangement as this G chord, instead of maybe getting a higher, higher pitched sound just playing the bottom 4 strings, right? Also too, it's a great way to transitionally move from one thing to another. Again, not just in acoustic solo arrangement performances, but in all types of music. A lot of times you'll be faced with ascending and descending bass notes. So one thing you might see, like let's go back to a C chord example. C major to A minor, okay? 2 chords you'll always see paired together. Maybe in between, you want to grab a note on the way there. So we have the C major chord. We're going to end up with this A minor chord. In between, maybe we want to grab the note in the C scale that's going to take us to A minor. C, B, A, okay? So if we take this regular C major chord, and then we just hit this B right here, like this, and then go to A minor. Again, for this, we're going to call this a C slash B chord. My middle finger's on the 2nd fret of the A string, that's a B. My ring finger's on the 2nd fret of the D string. Right, so C, C slash B, A minor. Okay? There's like a descending nature to a bass line, and then different chords. Okay? Now, this is kind of an interesting one because if you take a C, slash it, and then put a B, well, a B note isn't technically in a C major chord. If you added a B note to a C chord, you actually get a C major 7 chord. So this is where it can be a little confusing, where it's like, well, this is C slash B chord, this is a C major chord, like what actually is this? It's really just kind of like your perspective that you're coming at it with, because technically, yeah, it's a C major 7 chord, but if it's written as a C slash B, that's really telling me, oh, it wants me to take the bass and move it down, instead of maybe playing C major 7, A minor. You know, again, that's kind of like an inefficient way to do it. You can always use common sense to try to figure out these chord progressions and kind of see what's easiest. But that's an example of when the note on the right side of the slash isn't actually in the chord that is being displayed on the left side of the slash. Same thing with like a G major chord, right? A G major 7 chord is just taking a G chord and then adding an F sharp to it. Well, you can do the same thing, where instead of going to a D slash F sharp, you just kind of add this F sharp on the way to maybe an E minor chord. You'll see that a lot as a transitional element in between them. And sometimes you can just kind of see like all sorts of things. Really just get creative. That's why this is more of a lesson in knowing where your notes are, where they lie in a scale, and then maybe just trying to, invent your own ones. Like maybe if we have like a B major over like the 3rd, like a G, right? It's like, okay, well that's kind of an interesting sound I'm getting, and you don't have to have a very advanced chord vocabulary to just try doing different things and then being able to notate it either for yourself or to play with another musician to kind of work on that kind of thing, all right? Now I do also want to mention that sometimes you'll see another type of slash chord that's called a polychord, and this is more of like maybe like a jazz thing or even like a piano thing, where you'll have maybe like an F over an A, so you'll see it up and down like that. That's really called a polychord. We have 2 different chords kind of happening at the same time. So maybe like a piano player is playing like an F major in his left hand, lower, and then an A major in his right hand, or his or her right hand, higher, right? And playing them at the same time. That's a little bit more of an advanced concept that as guitar players we don't really see too often, notation-wise, but it's just something that can cause confusion every now and then. So, slash chords are definitely a great thing to have an understanding of because you run into them all the time. And also just kind of a reminder to be thoughtful about maybe when you're just playing regular open chords or whatever kind of chord progression you have, that you can really just start adding different notes outside of the chord that you're playing to get different types of sounds, whether it be through a transitional component or just something kind of creative. All right, so definitely, if you have any questions or if I missed anything that you want me to add on to it, hit me up in the comment section, Instagram, Twitter, or the website, and I will talk to you all soon. Thanks a lot.